Part 1, The Forbidden Cell. The celestial vault floated silently in the void between stars, a massive obsidian structure pulsing with energy fields that shimmered like a black jewel against the cosmic backdrop. It was the most secure prison ship in the known universe, housing the galaxy's most dangerous criminals, rogue AI consciousnesses, terrorist leaders, and beings whose very existence defied the laws of physics. Yet, among its many cells, one remained untouched for 3,821 years, Cell 42 Omega. Commander Lyra Voss stood before the imposing security door, her reflection distorted in its polished surface. Once a decorated officer, she now wore a stripped-down uniform, her rank insignia the only reminder of her former glory. Her dark hair was pulled into a tight bun, and the lines on her face had deepened since her court-martial. Assigned to feed the prisoner in Cell 42 Omega, she couldn't help but feel a mix of dread and curiosity. Final warning, Commander Voss, the ship's AI, Vex, intoned through the corridor speakers. Cell 42 Omega houses an entity classified as maximum risk. Protocol requires verbal confirmation of your understanding that the Galactic Confederation bears no responsibility for injuries, death, or existential dissolution resulting from this assignment. Lyra's lips twitched with bitter amusement. Understood, Vex. I accept all risks associated with prisoner feeding duties for Cell 42 Omega. The AI paused, longer than usual. Your acceptance is noted. May your consciousness remain intact, Commander. How comforting, Lyra muttered as the massive door slid open with a sound like distant thunder. Inside, the chamber was a perfect sphere, its walls made of a seamless material that seemed to absorb light. In the center was a containment field, a shimmering dome of energy that pulsed with colors Lyra couldn't quite describe. And within that field sat a cat. Not a monstrous creature or a swirling vortex of cosmic energy, but an ordinary-looking house cat with copper-colored fur and faint whirls that seemed to shift when she wasn't looking directly at them. Its eyes, however, were anything but ordinary, completely black, like fragments of the void between galaxies. Lyra approached cautiously, carrying a container of nutrient paste. "Hello," she said, feeling absurd. "I've brought your meal." The cat blinked slowly, deliberately. Then, a voice echoed in her mind, bypassing her ears entirely. "You are different." Lyra froze. "You speak?" "When necessary," the cat replied. "The others merely feared." "You observe." Lyra took a steadying breath. "I was told you hadn't communicated with anyone for over 1,000 years. No one interesting has visited in 1,742 years, 8 months, and 3 days. Despite her fear, Lyra felt a flicker of curiosity. "And I'm interesting?" The cat stretched, its motion bending the space around it slightly. "You questioned. You chose truth over obedience. The Admiral ordered death from above, and you said no." Lyra's blood ran cold. "How do you know about my court-martial?" "The details were classified." "I see more than most believe possible." The cat's eyes seemed to expand, and for a moment, Lyra saw reflections in them, stars being born, civilizations rising and falling, time itself flowing like a river with countless branches. She should have been terrified, but instead, she felt a strange connection. This being had witnessed the universe for eons, yet it understood her choice. She straightened her shoulders. "Well, observer or not, protocol says you need to eat." The cat made a sound that might have been a purr or the universe chuckling. Protocol is a construct of finite minds seeking order in chaos. "Maybe so," Lyra replied, "but hunger is still hunger, isn't it? Even for beings that can bend reality." The cat's whiskers twitched in what Lyra could have sworn was amusement. It approached the container, sniffing delicately. "This substance is acceptable." As the cat ate, Lyra watched, noting how the nutrient paste seemed to dissolve before touching its mouth. "May I ask you something?" The cat licked a paw, a gesture so mundane it seemed absurd coming from a cosmic entity. You may ask. I may answer. Why do you appear as a cat? Is this your true form? What is a true form to one who exists across multiple dimensions? This shape is comfortable. Your species has a curious relationship with these creatures, respect without worship, companionship without servitude. It seemed appropriate. Before Lyra could respond, the chamber's lights flashed red, and Vex's voice cut through the air. Warning, anomalous energy readings detected in cell 42 Omega. Security protocols activated. Commander Voss, please evacuate immediately. The cat's ears flattened slightly. They fear what they cannot control, as they have for 3,821 years. I should go, Lyra said, though she found herself reluctant to leave. You will return, the cat said, not as a question but a statement. Tomorrow, same time, Lyra replied, backing toward the door. The cat blinked slowly, a gesture Lyra remembered from childhood as a sign of trust and affection. The universe faces a choice point, Lyra Voss. Lines of probability converge and diverge. You have a role to play in what comes next. As the massive door closed behind her, Lyra heard one final thought from the observer: humanity has always been the most interesting variable in the equation. Outside, she was immediately surrounded by security officers, their weapons drawn. Commander, what happened in there? The chief of security demanded. Lyra looked at the sealed door, thinking of the being behind it. Nothing happened. I delivered the food as ordered. The prisoner accepted it. It spoke to you, didn't it? The chief pressed, his face pale. Lyra met his gaze steadily. I'm scheduled to return tomorrow. I suggest you get used to the energy readings. As she walked away, Lyra's mind was filled with visions of stars, time, and choices yet to be made. Something told her that her assignment to feed the alien cat was no punishment at all but perhaps the most important posting in the galaxy. And for the first time since her court-martial, Commander Lyra Voss smiled. Part 2, The Void Eater's Approach. The celestial vault was in chaos. Alarms blared, and the ship's corridors buzzed with frantic activity as crew members rushed to their stations. Commander Lyra Voss stood in the observation deck, staring at the holographic display that showed the edge of the galaxy. A strange, dark ripple was spreading across the stars, swallowing them one by one. The Void Eaters had arrived. Lyra's mind raced as she recalled the observer's warning from the day before. They have consumed 1,000 galaxies in 1,000 dimensions, and now they have found yours. The words echoed in her thoughts, sending a chill down her spine. She had barely slept, her dreams filled with visions of endless nothingness and the observer's piercing black eyes. Commander Voss, Admiral Kren's voice crackled through her communicator. Report to the bridge immediately. Lyra straightened her uniform and made her way to the bridge, her boots echoing against the metal floors. The tension in the air was palpable. Officers huddled around monitors, their faces pale as they analyzed the data streaming in from the outer sectors. Admiral, Lyra said, saluting as she entered. Kren, a stern man with a face carved from years of command, nodded curtly. We've lost contact with 3 outposts in the Arcturus sector. Whatever this is, it's moving fast. The Void Eaters, as you called them, are real. Lyra swallowed hard. The observer warned me about them. It said they consume reality itself. Kren's eyes narrowed. And you believe it? I do, Lyra replied without hesitation. It knew about my court-martial, details that were classified. It sees things we can't even comprehend. The Admiral sighed, running a hand through his graying hair. Even if that's true, what can we do against something that eats galaxies? Lyra hesitated, then spoke carefully. The observer said it could stop them. But it needs freedom, and me. Kren's expression darkened. Release a prisoner of that magnitude? Are you out of your mind, Commander? With all due respect, Admiral, Lyra said, her voice steady, we're facing an extinction-level event. Can we afford to ignore any potential ally? The bridge fell silent, all eyes on Kren. He stared at Lyra for a long moment, then turned to the holographic display. The dark ripple was growing larger, closer. Finally, he nodded. Do it. But if this goes wrong, the responsibility falls on you. Lyra didn't waste time. She hurried to cell 42 Omega, her heart pounding. The massive security door slid open, revealing the observer sitting calmly in the center of its containment field. Its copper fur gleamed under the chamber's lights, and its black eyes fixed on her as if it had been waiting. They come, the observer's voice echoed in her mind. The Void Eaters approach. I know, Lyra said, stepping inside. Admiral Kren has agreed to release you. But you have to help us. What do we do? The observer stood, stretching in that peculiar way that seemed to bend the light around it. To face the Void Eaters, we must move beyond the confines of this ship. Beyond space and time itself. Lyra frowned. How? You will be my anchor, the observer replied. Your humanity, your capacity for choice and care, will guide us through the probability streams. Before Lyra could ask more, the ship shuddered violently. The lights flickered, and the observer's containment field began to waver. The Void Eaters were closer than anyone had realized. Vex, deactivate the containment field, Lyra ordered. The AI's voice was uncharacteristically hesitant. Commander, this action violates multiple security protocols. Are you certain? Do it, Lyra snapped. The shimmering energy dome flickered and vanished. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the observer leaped down from its platform, its paws touching the floor outside the containment area. The chamber transformed instantly. The walls seemed to dissolve, revealing an infinite tapestry of light and color, countless realities, countless possibilities, all interconnected like threads in a cosmic loom. Lyra gasped, her mind struggling to process what she was seeing. What is this? The fabric of existence, the observer replied. This is where we must go to confront the Void Eaters. The observer's form began to shift, its copper fur elongating into streams of energy, its black eyes multiplying into a constellation of observing points. Yet, somehow, it still retained the essence of a cat, playful, independent, and endlessly curious. Place your hand on me, the observer instructed. We must move quickly. Lyra hesitated, then reached out, her hand trembling as it touched the being that was now more energy than flesh. The sensation was indescribable, warmth and cold, a buzzing harmony that resonated with her very atoms. She felt both vast and small, connected to something far greater than herself. The universe folded around them, and suddenly they were elsewhere. Not in physical space, but in a realm where probability itself was visible, flowing like currents in a vast ocean. And approaching through this sea of possibility was something that made Lyra's mind reel, a wave of nothingness, a moving absence, a hunger without end. The Void Eaters, the observer said, its voice calm but tinged with urgency. They are anti-pattern, anti-possibility. They consume reality itself. Lyra's breath caught in her throat. How do we stop them? I will confront them, the observer replied. I will offer them a choice, a new purpose. But they will not listen. They cannot comprehend choice or possibility. That is where you come in, Lyra Voss. Me? Lyra asked, her voice barely a whisper. What can I do against that? You are human, the observer said simply. You care. You create meaning where none seems to exist. Show them what it means to be human. Lyra's mind raced. She thought of the lives in the galaxy, billions of beings, each with their own hopes and dreams. She thought of Admiral Kren, who had reluctantly trusted her, and the crew of the Celestial Vault, who were fighting to survive. She thought of the observer, who had waited millennia for this moment. And she cared. Deeply, fiercely, with all the stubborn intensity that humanity was capable of. The Void Eaters recoiled as if struck. The observer's form pulsed with renewed energy, expanding further, creating a tapestry of alternative pathways, countless realities where the Void Eaters could exist without consuming, where they could be part of the pattern rather than its undoing. They cannot comprehend your capacity to care, the observer said, its voice filled with something like awe. It is anathema to them. The confrontation lasted what might have been moments or centuries in the timeless realm they occupied. Gradually, the nothingness receded, diverted into the pathways the observer had created. The Void Eaters flowed away from the galaxy, into dimensions where they could exist without destroying. When it was over, Lyra found herself back in the chamber of the Celestial Vault, on her knees and gasping for breath. Beside her sat the copper-furred cat, calmly licking a paw as if nothing extraordinary had happened. The ship's AI chimed. Anomalous energy signatures dissipating. Threat level reduced to minimal. Status returning to normal. Lyra looked at the cat, her mind still reeling. Did we win? There is no winning or losing in the cosmic pattern, the observer replied. There is only continuation or cessation. Today, continuation prevailed. Lyra sat back on her heels, overwhelmed. So what happens now? Do you leave? The cat tilted its head, considering. I have waited in this place for 3,821 years. I have seen what I needed to see. Humanity has proven itself a worthy variable in the equation. It stood and stretched, a simple feline motion that somehow conveyed ancient wisdom. I think perhaps I will stay. The galaxy remains interesting. You remain interesting. Lyra laughed, a sound of pure relief and wonder. So after all this, I'm still just the person who feeds the cat? The cat's whiskers twitched in what might have been amusement. Yes. But now you understand what that truly means. As the security door slid open and Admiral Kren entered, flanked by armed guards and scientists, Lyra realized that everything had changed. The universe was vaster and stranger than anyone had imagined, filled with threats beyond comprehension but also with allies equally profound. And humanity, with all its flaws and virtues, had proven itself essential to the cosmic tapestry. The cat blinked slowly at her, a gesture of trust and affection across species and dimensions. The best stories, it said in her mind, are never truly finished. They merely open doors to new possibilities. And as Lyra Voss, former disgraced commander and now perhaps the most important human in the galaxy, rose to explain the inexplicable to her superiors, she couldn't help but smile at the cosmic irony of it all. Some cats saved mice as offerings. This one had saved reality itself. Part 4, The Archivists of Zephyria. The journey to Zephyria was unlike anything Commander Lyra Voss had ever experienced. The Celestial Vault, now under the guidance of the Observer, moved through space with a fluidity that defied the laws of physics. The ship seemed to glide effortlessly between stars, its engines humming with a strange, almost melodic resonance. Lyra stood on the bridge, her eyes fixed on the holographic display that showed their destination, a shimmering, iridescent planet surrounded by a ring of crystalline asteroids. Zephyria, Lyra murmured, her voice filled with awe. I've only ever read about it in Confederation archives. No one's been able to make contact with the archivists in centuries. They are a reclusive species, the Observer said, its voice echoing in her mind. But they are not hostile. They simply value knowledge above all else. To them, the universe is a story, and they are its keepers. Lyra glanced at the cat, which sat perched on the edge of the console, its copper fur glowing faintly in the dim light. And you think they'll help us? They will listen, the Observer replied. Whether they choose to help is another matter. That will depend on you. Lyra frowned. On me? Why? Because you carry something they cannot ignore, curiosity. The archivists are drawn to those who seek knowledge, who ask questions, who challenge the status quo. You, Lyra Voss, are a question in a universe of answers. Before Lyra could respond, the ship's AI, Vex, chimed in. Approaching Zephiria's orbit. Scans indicate a dense atmospheric layer composed of crystalline particles. Landing will require precise navigation. Understood, Lyra said, her training kicking in. Prepare a shuttle for descent. I'll take a small team with me. I will accompany you, the observer said, leaping gracefully onto her shoulder. The archivists will be more inclined to listen if I am present. Lyra nodded, though she couldn't help but feel a flicker of unease. The observer's presence was both comforting and unnerving, a constant reminder of the cosmic forces at play. The shuttle descended through Zephiria's atmosphere, its hull shimmering as it passed through the crystalline particles. Lyra sat in the pilot's seat, her hands steady on the controls. Beside her, Lieutenant Jax, a young but capable officer, monitored the sensors. Commander, Jax said, his voice tinged with excitement. I'm picking up structures on the surface. Massive ones. They look like libraries. Lyra's eyes widened. Libraries? On this scale? The shuttle broke through the atmospheric layer, revealing a breathtaking sight. The surface of Zephyria was covered in towering spires of crystal and metal, each one pulsing with a soft, ethereal light. Between the spires were vast, open spaces filled with what appeared to be books, scrolls, and holographic records. It was a city of knowledge, a testament to the archivists' devotion to preserving the history of the cosmos. Bring us down near the central spire, Lyra instructed. And keep the engines running. We don't know what kind of reception we'll get. As the shuttle touched down, Lyra and her team, consisting of Jax, the observer, and 2 security officers, stepped out onto the crystalline surface. The air was cool and filled with a faint, musical hum, as if the planet itself was alive. Stay close, Lyra said, her hand resting on the hilt of her sidearm. And keep your eyes open. They approached the central spire, its entrance marked by a massive archway inscribed with symbols that seemed to shift and change as they watched. Before they could enter, a figure emerged from the shadows, a tall, slender being with translucent skin and eyes that glowed like twin stars. Who seeks entry to the archives of Zephyria? The being asked, its voice resonating with a deep, melodic tone. Lyra stepped forward, her heart pounding. I am Commander Lyra Voss of the Galactic Confederation. This is the Observer, a cosmic entity, and my team. We come seeking knowledge, knowledge that may save the galaxy. The archivist studied them for a moment, its glowing eyes lingering on the observer. Then it nodded. You may enter. But know this, the archives are not a place for the faint of heart. To seek knowledge is to confront the truth, and the truth is not always kind. Lyra swallowed hard but nodded. We understand. The archivist led them through the archway and into the central spire. Inside, the walls were lined with shelves that stretched endlessly upward, each one filled with books, scrolls, and artifacts from countless civilizations. The air was thick with the scent of ancient parchment and the hum of unseen energy. Wait here, the archivist said, gesturing to a circular platform in the center of the room. The keeper will see you. As the archivist disappeared into the shadows, Lyra turned to the observer. What now? Now, the observer replied, we wait. And we prepare. The platform beneath their feet began to glow, and the air around them shimmered. Suddenly, they were no longer in the central spire but in a vast, open space filled with swirling lights and shifting shapes. At the center of the space stood a figure, a being of pure light, its form constantly shifting and changing. Commander Lyra Voss, the being said, its voice echoing with the weight of ages. You seek knowledge. But knowledge comes at a price. Are you willing to pay it? Lyra took a deep breath, her mind racing. What price? The keeper's form solidified into something resembling a humanoid figure, its glowing eyes fixed on hers. To know the truth is to bear its weight. The knowledge you seek will change you, Lyra Voss. It will challenge everything you believe, everything you are. Are you prepared for that? Lyra hesitated, then nodded. If it means saving the galaxy, then yes. I am prepared. The keeper studied her for a long moment, then nodded. Very well. The archives will grant you what you seek. But remember, knowledge is a double-edged sword. Wield it wisely. The swirling lights around them coalesced into a single, glowing orb, which floated toward Lyra. She reached out, her fingers brushing against its surface. Instantly, her mind was flooded with images, visions of ancient civilizations, cosmic battles, and forces beyond comprehension. She saw the Void Eaters, not as a single threat, but as part of a larger pattern, a cycle of creation and destruction that had played out across countless galaxies. And then she saw something else, a shadowy figure, cloaked in darkness, manipulating events from behind the scenes. A being of immense power, with motives that were unclear but undeniably malevolent. Lyra gasped, pulling her hand away from the orb. What? What was that? The truth, the observer said, its voice filled with a rare note of urgency. The Void Eaters are not the only threat. There is another, a being that seeks to control the cycle of creation and destruction. And it is coming. The keeper's form shifted, its glowing eyes narrowing. You have seen what few have dared to seek. The archives have shown you the path, but the journey is yours to make. Go now, Lyra Voss. The galaxy depends on you. As the swirling lights faded and the platform returned them to the central spire, Lyra's mind was reeling. She turned to the observer, her voice barely a whisper. What do we do now? Now, the observer said, its black eyes gleaming with determination, we prepare for war. Part 3, The Cosmic Bargain. The celestial vault was alive with activity. Scientists, officers, and engineers scrambled to analyze the data from the recent encounter with the Void Eaters. Commander Lyra Voss stood at the center of it all, her mind still reeling from the events that had unfolded. The observer, now free from its containment cell, sat calmly beside her, its copper fur gleaming under the bright lights of the ship's bridge. To the crew, it looked like an ordinary cat, but Lyra knew better. This was no ordinary feline, it was a cosmic entity that had just saved the galaxy. Admiral Kren approached, his expression a mix of awe and suspicion. Commander Voss, he said, his voice low. We need to talk. Privately. Lyra nodded and followed him to a secluded corner of the bridge. The observer padded silently behind them, its black eyes observing everything with an air of detached curiosity. Explain to me, Kren began, his tone sharp, what just happened. And don't leave anything out. Lyra took a deep breath. The observer, the being you thought was a prisoner, is far more than that. It's a guardian, a watcher of the cosmos. It knew the Void Eaters were coming and had been waiting for the right moment to act. When I released it, we confronted the Void Eaters in a realm beyond space and time. The observer created new pathways for them, diverting their destructive path away from our galaxy. Kren's eyes narrowed. And you? What was your role in all this? Lyra hesitated, then spoke carefully. The observer needed an anchor, a connection to humanity. It said my capacity to care, to create meaning in the face of cosmic indifference, was the key to stopping the Void Eaters. The Admiral stared at her, his expression unreadable. Do you realize how insane that sounds? A cat, a cosmic entity, used your humanity to save the galaxy? I know it sounds unbelievable, Lyra admitted. But it worked. The Void Eaters are gone, at least for now. Kren sighed, running a hand through his graying hair. This changes everything. The Confederation will want answers, and I'm not sure they'll believe a story about an alien cat and a disgraced commander saving the universe. Before Lyra could respond, the observer's voice echoed in her mind. Tell him the truth. He will understand. Lyra glanced at the cat, then back at Kren. Admiral, the observer has been watching over the galaxy for millennia. It chose to stay in that cell, not because it was imprisoned, but because it was waiting for the right moment, the right person. It believes in humanity, in our potential to shape the cosmos. And it wants to stay. Kren's eyes widened. Stay? Here? On this ship? Not just here, the observer's voice echoed in both their minds now. Everywhere. I will watch, guide, and protect. But I will not interfere unless necessary. The galaxy is a tapestry of possibilities, and humanity is its most fascinating thread. The Admiral staggered back, his face pale. It speaks? Yes, Lyra said, a small smile tugging at her lips. And it has a lot to say. Kren took a moment to compose himself, then nodded slowly. Very well. But this changes nothing about your court-martial, Commander. You still disobeyed orders, and that cannot go unpunished. Lyra's smile faded. I understand, sir. There is another way, the observer interjected. A cosmic bargain, if you will. Kren frowned. What kind of bargain? Commander Voss's actions, though unorthodox, saved the galaxy. Punishing her would be counterproductive. Instead, let her serve as my liaison, a bridge between humanity and the cosmic forces at play. In return, I will share my knowledge and aid the Confederation in ways you cannot yet imagine. The Admiral considered this, his gaze shifting between Lyra and the observer. Finally, he sighed. Very well. Commander Voss, your court-martial is hereby suspended. You will serve as the observer's liaison, reporting directly to me. But know this, if you step out of line again, there will be no second chances. Lyra nodded, relief flooding through her. Thank you, Admiral. As Kren walked away, the observer blinked slowly at Lyra. You see? Even the most rigid minds can bend when faced with the impossible. Lyra chuckled. I suppose you're right. But what now? What does being your liaison entail? For now, we observe, the observer replied. The galaxy is vast, and there are many threads to follow. But first, there is something you must see. The cat leaped onto a nearby console, its paws moving deftly across the controls. The holographic display flickered to life, showing a star system on the edge of the galaxy. A small, blue-green planet orbited a yellow star, its surface teeming with life. That's Earth, Lyra said, her voice filled with wonder. My home. Yes, the observer said. But not just your home. It is the birthplace of humanity, the source of your species' unique potential. And it is in danger. Lyra's heart skipped a beat. Danger? From what? The Void Eaters were only the beginning, the observer explained. There are other forces at work, forces that seek to control, to dominate, to destroy. And they have set their sights on Earth. Lyra's mind raced. What can we do? We must prepare, the observer said. But we cannot do it alone. You must gather allies, those who understand the stakes and are willing to fight for the galaxy's future. Lyra nodded, determination hardening her features. Where do we start? There is a planet on the far side of the galaxy, the observer said, its voice steady. A world called Zephyria. It is home to the Archivists, a species that has recorded the history of the cosmos for eons. They may hold the key to understanding the threats we face. Lyra hesitated. The Archivists? I've heard of them, but they're reclusive. They don't involve themselves in galactic affairs. They will listen to you, the observer said. Because you carry something they value above all else, curiosity. Lyra took a deep breath, then nodded. All right. Let's go to Zephyria. As she turned to leave, the observer's voice stopped her. One more thing, Lyra Voss. This journey will not be easy. There will be challenges, dangers, and choices that will test you to your core. But remember this, you are not alone. I will be with you, every step of the way. Lyra smiled, a sense of purpose filling her. I know. And I'm ready.